The DEA has raided 4 medical marijuana dispensaries in Seattle. In fact, I should be clear, there aren't even medical marijuana dispensaries because in the state of Washington, marijuana is legal for recreational use. But the Obama administration apparently doesn't care because they have obtained warrants and they have raided 4 separate dispensaries. And let me give you their names. One is Seattle Cross, Tacoma Cross, Key Peninsula Cross, and Bayside Collective. Now,
that's a band name.
Authorities, Bayside Collective does sound like a band name. Now, authorities went into the dispensaries with a warrant, and then they took away the cell phones of all the employees that worked at the dispensary, and then they also confiscated all of the marijuana at the dispensaries. And who knows what's going to happen from here on out, but this is exactly what we expected, even though the Obama administration said that they were going to respect states' rights when it comes to this issue. They have not respected states' rights. They are still doing these ridiculous raids.
You know why they took the cell phones away? Because you put your weed in it. What's the point of taking the cell phones? Just because we'd like to spy in, we'd like to collect all the information on your cell phones and all the phone numbers that you have. Now you get put on a list of suspicious people because if they shopped here, which you don't know, could be their mom, whatever. Okay, we're going to collect that. There's no reason to take the cell phones. I mean, it's an extra level of douchebaggery, right?
Just to inconvenience them and make you realize, like, oh shit, I don't want to continue in this business if they're continually hounding me in this way.
Yeah. No, so how many times do we have to go through this before it gets through people's heads that President Obama doesn't tell the truth? Like he said during the campaigns, that is not a good use of Justice Department resources to go chase after it. Now, at the time it was medical dispensaries. Now it's perfectly legal in Washington and Colorado, and he's raiding Washington anyway.
So where are these fiscal conservatives, right? Because if you are a fiscal conservative, you would be outraged that the Obama administration is using money, taxpayer money, to do these raids on marijuana dispensaries. I mean, when you really look at the entire issue and you look at how destructive alcohol can be and how you can die from alcohol, and then you have something like marijuana, I mean, if you're in favor of personal liberty, if you're in favor of fiscal conservatism, this is the exact issue that you should be against. And I don't see any Republicans railing against this. You know, this has barely even really made any news. I just can't imagine wasting any resources on something so stupid.
So Douglas Hyde is a well-known lawyer for these dispensaries and medical marijuana advocates, et cetera. And in this case, he said, look, you have to understand something. We're not the criminals. They're the criminals. What we're doing is perfectly legal. Them coming in here and taking our legal product and confiscating it and confiscating everything else along with it is criminal in nature. Yeah. So, you know, it's an excellent case to be made. We know there's different federal law and there's different state law. And it's a tough issue, to be fair. But here's a president who promised, I'm not going to interfere with those states' rights, and normally would love to agree with the conservative position. Conservative position is supposed to be states' rights, right? But of course on this, conservatives flip and go, oh no, it's evil pot! Who gives a damn about states' rights right away? And of course, what does President Obama do? Says, right away, sir, yes sir, absolutely sir. And he raids the dispensaries for no reason.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to find the reason, and this guy, the owner of these 4 dispensaries, it says here, is under investigation for illegal pot sales and money laundering. And it's that they've already had a 2-year investigation of this. And I'm curious whether, forgetting motivation, if there was any thought like, okay, whatever, wrap up whatever you have, and then are we starting new investigations?
That's a good point. Yeah, look, I understand what you're saying, and it's possible. But if the guy is doing sales he shouldn't be doing, that's also a state issue, right? But the state isn't taking action here. The federal government's taking action.
Exactly.
And at the time, right after they passed this law to do this raid, when the Justice Department said we won't do raids like this, it would appear to the average person that you're trying to send a message, right? So you're right, Ben. It could be that it's either a coincidence or they're wrapping up an old investigation and maybe this guy is some sort of drug czar in the wrong way outside of the legal stuff that he's selling. But it's a nice coincidence, basically saying we don't give a damn. But it appears to be saying we don't give a damn about your state law.
Yeah, and it's another form of intimidation. It does tell other dispensaries, hey, this could happen to you. We're going to come in there. Why are they taking the cell phones? We're going to come in there. We're going to take the cell phones. We're going to take the pot. You're probably going to face prosecution for it. It's a form of intimidation, and I'm hoping that nobody actually gets intimidated by it and they continue doing what they're doing. If the people of Washington have voted and they are in favor of legalizing marijuana for recreational use, the federal government shouldn't get involved in that.
Well, that part I don't agree with at all. I agree with only conceptually. Specifically, I do. I don't know why the DEA is bothering raiding pot dispensaries. Like people's arms are getting hacked off on the Mexican border. Like there seems to be plenty of work for the DEA to do that's valuable work. And I suspect there are a lot of DEA agents who roll their eyes at this, I would imagine. But like the fact that, I mean, we just spent a long time in the first hour talking about how North Carolina's outrageous Voting Rights Act law needs to be preempted by federal legislation. So, like, I get it. If there's federal law wins, it always in my world, and generally we've come upon now some rare cases where federal law winning is a bad thing. But legally, that's a totally interesting dispute. I mean, it is against the law in the United States of America to possess marijuana or to sell it. And now we got these states passing it, and more. I mean, what are we going to do? Are the agents going to fan out now around the country when it gets to 26, 28, 35 states legalize it? They're going to be that's all they're going to do is raid marijuana dispensaries. So the interesting thing is, what's the decision of the Justice Department?
Yeah.
How do they handle this?
Well, it strikes me as odd because, so we've had this conversation a couple of times in the past. Now, granted, this is before Colorado and Washington made it legal for recreational use, but the argument always comes down to what you were saying earlier, that, the conservatives are really against it, and so it appears that Obama is just bowing to the pressure from them, which is certainly possible, but it seems even for Obama to be lacking in some political savvy, because I can't imagine, and I'm sure you can't imagine, that he's getting a lot of votes based off of this. Like, is there one conservative who's like, you know what, I'm going to vote for Obama because of this? But he's almost certainly losing liberal support. He's disenfranchised. He's ruining the motivation to go to vote for a lot of liberals. So it's possible that it's not actually the bowing to the conservative pressure. Maybe he doesn't really care either way, and you have a couple of people in the DEA who are leading these things who are totally against pot. But it just seems weird because we know that the laws are changing and public opinion is changing. It's not like in 20 years it's going to reverse and people who are smoking pot now are going to think it's a demon drug or something.
John, it always goes back to the same thing, and it goes back to where the money is. There's so many people that make money off keeping it illegal. Obama smoked pot when he was in college. He was very, very honest about that. He's not doing this for political reasons. He's doing it because the people that are making money off this war on drugs want to keep marijuana legal. Okay, we have private contractors that get paid so much money to go to other countries and continue fighting the war on drugs. The DEA makes a ton of money continuing the war on drugs, and of course marijuana is part of that. You have correctional officers that make money off the war on drugs. I mean, the list goes on and on. They want to keep it illegal, and these are the people that lobby to keep it that way.
Well, last thing here. Look, let me tell you the dynamic of how this works. People go into the Oval Office and they say, Mr. President, we have to do this, right? So the generals are the experts in a war, and they say we have to increase the troops in Afghanistan. And in fact, we need at least 40,000. And he says, give me several options. And in one particular case, one of the options he wanted was 0 troops, withdrawal. And they flat out refused to give him that option. They said, no, we're going to give you 40, 30, and 20, something along those lines. All right, now, in the national security realm, they come in and say, Mr. President, we have to do, Taliban activity in northern Pakistan is increasing, and we can show you, and they'll put up a fancy map, and look at the activity here, and there's gun smuggling here, and et cetera. We need to do signature strikes, right? And in the case of drugs, the DEA comes in, and by the way, he appointed a super right-winger left over from the Bush administration to be the head of the DEA, which he didn't have to do. One possible answer, by the way, is the most simple answer. It's not that he's bowing down to conservatives, it's that he is a conservative, okay? So now, but more likely, the dynamic unfolds like this. They come in and say, Mr. President, we have to do federal laws, we must enforce federal law, and we need to do these dispensary raids. This guy in Seattle area is very dangerous, yada, yada, yada. Now, a strong guy has to say, no, I'm not doing a signature strike. Yes, we're going to do drone strikes. You got a top al-Qaeda leader. You give me his name. We look at it. And when we think we've got a good shot at him, we take it. But I do not hit people who I don't know who they are. We do not do that, right? No, if I told you to give me an option where there are 0 troops, you goddamn give me an option where there are 0 troops, or the next time it won't be you coming into this meeting, it'll be the person under you coming into this meeting. And if you come and tell me to do a dispensary raid, apparently you missed my campaign where I said we're not going to raid dispensaries and waste our resources that way. But President Obama is not that kind of strong leader. He's the kind of leader who thinks, well, if I don't bow down to this pressure, well, a story might leak about how I'm soft on drugs, soft on terrorists, etc. So I will do the easiest thing possible. Yes, go ahead, do the signature strike, increase the troops, and do the dispensary raids. Next.